Dear brothers and sisters, welcome to Media Outspoken. Today is 4th of July 2026. 4th July is the Independence Day for the United States. It was founded in 1776, so 2026 is their 250th Independence Day. So let us start off wishing them a happy Independence Day. Now, what is the unhappy side about it? 80 plus countries have unhappy Dependence Day. Let us see what US did for our world over the last 250 years. 250 inglorious years. Out of this 250 years, 230 years they were at war. This included 37 major wars, 500 plus military interventions, 161 covert and 26 overt attempts to regime change, engaged in dozens of other concealed activities, 81 covert and overt interventions in foreign elections. And what are the illogical justifications? The US initiated many wars, all of them for illogical reasons. The Vietnam War, to stop the spread of communism. Iraq War, to prevent Saddam Hussein's regime. Iran War, to cripple the ballistic missile infrastructure and stop Iranian regional proxies from holding power. Afghan War, claiming it to be an act of self-defense, to capture Osama bin Laden and overthrow Taliban government. Libyan War, under the humanitarian doctrine, responsibility to protect. The Venezuelan attack to counter the drug trafficking, narco-terrorism, and address the surge of Venezuelan migrants at the US border. Again, the Cuban attack to counter the spread of communism. Panama attack, the key justification cited by the US government included safeguarding American citizens and protecting the integrity of Panama Canal and restoring democratic processes. Here is a list of countries bombed by the US after the Second World War. You can see China in 1945, when Truman was the president of US, to support nationalists in Chinese Civil War. Korea in 1950-53, the US wanted Korea to be divided into two and South Korea to be under their control. US dropped 635,000 tons of bombs and 32,557 tons of napalm in Korea in a span of just less than 3 years. Every major city in Korea was destroyed. The US did bombing in Guatemala, Indonesia, and Cuba, all CIA backed, and in Vietnam between 1961 and 1975. US used 7.5 million tons of bombs between 1961 and 1975 in Vietnam. This is actually more than the total amount of bombs used in the Second World War. Heavy bombing was done in Laos between 1964 and 1973. More than 2 million tons of bombs and 580,000 bombing missions. The most heavily bombed country per capita in history. Between 1969 and 1973, Cambodia was bombed 2.7 million tons. Lebanon was attacked in 1983, Libya in 1986, Iran in 1987, sank an Iranian naval vessels, shot down civilian airliner, killing 290. That was on July 3rd. Attacked Iraq in 1991, which lasted up to 2003. 88,500 tons in 43 days, plus 12 years of no-fly zone enforcement strikes. In Kuwait in 1991, Bosnia in 94, Sudan in 1998, Afghanistan in 1998, and 2001 to 2021. 1,998 strikes on Al-Qaeda camps and 20 years of sustained bombing. Yugoslavia and Serbia in 1999, 78-day NATO air campaign, 38,000 combat sorties. Attacked Pakistan between 2004 and 2018, 400 plus CIA drone strikes, 2,500 to 4,000 killed, including 1,000 civilians. Somalia is under attack from 2007. Drone strikes and special ops against Al-Shabaab. Yemen is under attack from 2002. Drone strikes against Al-Qaeda plus 2024-25 strikes against the Houthi targets. Libya was attacked in 2011 and between 2015 and 19. To topple Gaddafi, followed by strikes against ISIS in Libya. Syria was attacked in 2014. It's also ongoing. Direct strikes on Syrian military 2017 and 2018. Iraq is under attack from 2014, aiming at Iran-backed militias. Iran was attacked in 2025-2026, which is again ongoing. attacking major military sites and leadership sites. Let us see what the US presidents did to carry out the R2P, that is the responsibility to protect. We start with Reagan, invaded Grenada and bombed Libya without congressional votes. Clinton bombed Yugoslavia for 78 days without authorization. Obama bombed Libya for 7 months without congressional votes. Trump struck Syria twice without authorization. Biden bombed Yemen Houthis for months with no authorization. Trump struck Iran twice, ongoing in 2025 and 2026 without authorization. Capture of Venezuela president 2026. Attack on Cuba in 2026. So one thing is sure, it was never the responsibility to protect. They were attacking at will. They had their own plans and their own reasons. You call it by any word: leasing, mooching, freeloading, extorting, sponging, exploiting, extracting. So R2P will become the right to parasiting. US has more than 750 bases around the world in 80 plus countries and territories. The highest concentration of both bases deployed by the American troops are located in allied nations like Japan, Germany, South Korea, and major strategic hubs located in the Middle East. The United States operates approximately 120 active military sites and facilities across Japan, which includes 76 exclusive use US military bases, alongside several joint use facilities housing roughly 55,000 active duty American troops. This gives Japan the highest number of US military personnel and installations stationed anywhere overseas. But what for? As per the SMA, Japan has to pay $9.33 billion to the US to cover the costs of labor, utilities, and training for the period 2022 to 2026. And you have the breakup here. And anything additional is of course additional. Whatever expenses comes in between, naturally Japan has to bear it. So again you can see R2P is now the responsibility to plunder. The situation in South Korea is no different. After dividing the Korea to South Korea and North Korea, North Korea to the USSR and South Korea to the US. Later on, the North Korea attacked South Korea, rather invaded South Korea. Actually, it was a part of Korea itself. So North Korea has all the rights for that. But now, South Korea was supported by the US. and the division was complete by 1953. And US started a funding structure, the SMA, and it is as high as 1.52 trillion, that is dollars 1.09 billion to 1.14 billion per year in direct host nation support to US, marking an 8.3 increase. That is, every 5 years there is an increase by 8.3%. So last time it was 1.4 trillion won. That is between 2021 and 25. Now for the period 2026 to 2030, it has gone up by 8.3%. That is 1.52 trillion won, or dollars 1.09 billion. This funding directly offsets for logistics, localized labor, construction costs required to sustain the roughly, they've got 28,500 US troops stationed in South Korea. Responsibility to plunder. See what the USSR did to North Korea. They left Korea in 1948 itself. We believe it should be like that. Once you enter a country, maybe for giving a helping hand, like a war, maybe for a civil war, or maybe a war to another country. A country supports one country, the other country supports another country. So let it be like that. But once the war is over, you have to quit. What is the point in sticking on there and making more and more trouble and be a parasite? This is not a responsibility, their right or responsibility to plunder. Why should they do that? See, in 1945, after the World War, finally the Korea was split into two, that is South and the North. And the US was in charge of the South, and North was in charge of Russia. And Russia, that is USSR, and USSR left the scene in 1948 itself. So Soviet occupation forces officially withdrew from the North Korea on 10th December 1948 itself. This followed the division of Korean Peninsula at the end of the World War II, with Soviet troops entering the North in 1945 and overseeing the establishment of Democratic People's Republic of Korea (DPRK) in September 1948. In 1961, the North Korea and the Soviet Union signed a treaty of friendship, cooperation, and mutual assistance. Now it can be called responsibility to protect, or maybe Russia to protect. Let us see what US takes home from these different countries. US imports 300,000 to 400,000 barrels per day of crude oil from Iraq, 300,000 to 500,000 barrels of crude oil per day from Saudi Arabia, small amounts from Kuwait, but there is again the assistance given by the US Stabilization and Security Operations, which is $200 million annually. This is in spite of the fact that Kuwait contributed $16 billion towards war expenses. US get 8% of the total crude oil imports from the Middle East, averaging around 490,000 barrels per day from Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and UAE. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and UAE compensated $36 billion to US for its deployment. The United States imports approximately 445,000 barrels of crude oil from Venezuela per day. I have a dream, not my words. It is from Martin Luther King Jr. in his iconic speech. All men are created equal. He had dreams about US. Maybe US is a superpower. Maybe US is a top economy in the whole world. But if this is how US makes it, the responsibility to plunder is not going to work long. When you take Martin Luther King's words in a broader sense, we can understand each and every human being in the whole world has been created equal. So it's high time for the US to think. It is high time for each and every American citizen to think and to make sure that the right people are in power. The regime change is not required for any other country in the whole world. It's actually, you have to start it. You have to start it from US. Correct US and then try to correct, try to make attacks, try to make interventions, and all those. Make yourself close to perfection. This is actually, it's a shame. It's a shame that a country like US has the responsibility to plunder. No. Living on somebody's bread. Don't be a parasite. Please share your views and comments. Please subscribe and support us. We assure you, we will bring you the truth behind every news. Thank you.